I agree with you, Wayne. That's not the way I'd go. No way.
I mean, Frontier offered for double that money, 3.2 million, Frontier offered to string fiber throughout the entire town of Sharon and connect all the homes.
You know what? I'm just
But
writing
it's
down
Frontier, so
under new business broadband. Let's maybe talk a little bit about that. You can give us a little bit of an update and we can just talk because we're half the committee is here. So
sure.
you know, talk about that. Quick question before we get started. I've got a phone on 860-868-0585. Just wondering who that might be. Anybody? No? All right, well, maybe when they hear us, they can let us know who that is. So we've got Tony, who hasn't been here for a while. It's so great to see you here. And Rudy, Robin, Jim, Dan, Kristen, Wayne's here in person, so we've got a quorum. So we'll go ahead and get started, I guess. There are a lot of meetings on the agenda for today, that, you know, after our meeting, so we'll go ahead and get started. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of October 18th? So moved by Wayne.
Rudy seconded.
Rudy second, okay, so we have Wayne and Rudy. Were there any issues or concerns, comments? No? All in favor? Okay, yes, that looks like a majority. All right, thank you. So today's agenda is just a bunch of my reporting on things I've been working on. So what I thought I would do is just put together some information so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So it's not just me talking, because it's not a very exciting. It's been very busy around here. Lots of stuff happening. So I'll just kind of fill you in on what's going on, and please stop me at any time to ask questions, anything that I may have forgotten. Let me just see, slideshow. Why is this not? Help me here, Wayne. Present on one. Nope. From the beginning. I do it this way.
There you go.
Okay. So can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know. All right, so just gonna go through the normal things that I usually report on. The new homeowner mailings, there were 6 new homes sold in October. I have not done that mailing yet, but I will get the welcome letters out. And just to let you know, the selectmen's email as of September, I think, was 1,283 people, which is pretty good. We've been continually adding to that. We've added about 150 in the last year and a half. I do think, though, that there's room for improvement, and we can talk about how to do that. We've already talked about doing a mailer in the tax bills next go around. So just to keep an eye on that. Something that's made my last 2 weeks very crazy are the tree lights. So exciting. Just to give everyone a little bit of a background, we started this 2 years ago. It was an idea that came out of the WBA of sort of decorating our downtown. And I want to let you know that is a very common, it's something for business associations and economic development to do. I was at a conference, which I'll talk about later, but at a conference where someone, an economic development person in another town, was talking about, in order to fight the malls, they went and actually planted trees so they could put lights in them in their downtown to bring people to the downtown. So it brings a lot of joy. It makes us all happy, but it also puts us on the map and creates, you know, a destination for your winter shopping and everything. So
Michelle,
yeah.
it doesn't look like your slideshow is progressing.
So do you see the tree right there?
No, all I see is the beginning slide.
Oh, that's weird.
And it says upload blocked, so I don't know what that means, but.
Okay, thank you. Huh. Let me exit. Thank you.
That's true for me too.
Yeah, Fran, I saw you. It was funny. It was allowing you to write on my screen. I thought that was
Oh,
curious.
well, I don't want to do that, but I'm blocked too. It's telling me I have this.
I'm blocked too, so it looks like everyone is.
The reason I did this and
It's still
the
writing.
reason I did it was so that you could, because of the pictures. You know, the words are no fun. Well, what if I just advance it in the small? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So it didn't like the slideshow player. So I'll just advance it here. So to give you an update then on the trees, what we did is we added more this year. And I'll show you which ones. But before I do that, I just want to let you know that by the end of tomorrow, probably, we will have hung an additional 175 lights. And each one of those lights takes quite a bit of time to take out of the box and turn into a globe, because they come in a little tiny square. So big thanks to Robin, who came and helped, and Liz from the WBA, and Jen Pody from Senior Center, and my entire church congregation at coffee hour. And I ran into some students that were sitting around. They were volunteering for an ASAP event. I got them to fluff lights. I had people everywhere trying to work on these. So, but we made it. So this is the picture of the tree at Town Hall that was replaced, because the other one had to come down. We added this tree here between Legion Hall and the Art Association. This one here is at the end, kind of at the corners of Titus, kitty corner from the gas station, which is right here. So those are the three new ones. Three new ones in the depot. There's another one at Marty's, which they hung the lights yesterday. They just put the electricity to it today. It's not finished. We need to get a few more lights on it. This is the tree on the green that the lights were lit last night. They've been hanging in New Preston all day today. So we have 2 in New Preston going on. So very well into the process. There's been a lot of running around, meeting with the electricians and the arborists. Big shout out to Daryl Wright and all of his guys, and Bill Pollock from Arbor Services and all of their guys. They have been wonderful to work with, and they're putting in a lot of time on this project. So it's that time of year. I also just wanted to let you know, oops, I don't know what happened to my screen here.
Hey, Michelle, congrats to you. They look great.
Thank you. Thank you. I've actually had people contact me from the town of Morris and the town of Warren, because they said Washington looks so beautiful. They want to know, how did we do that, and who did we use, and how much does it cost? So it's being noticed, definitely. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I think that there'll be other towns that try and up. Yeah.
Well,
They won't be able to,
I
not
was
from
just
what
gonna
I
say,
see
good luck
here.
to them. They might be able to, but it's been quite an effort on the parts of a lot of people, between the fundraising, because this has all been paid for by businesses and people in town. This is not coming out of the town budget. And a big thank you also to the Village Improvement Society, because they are allowing us to use to run this through them. So people are making donations to the Village Improvement Society. And then I turn in invoices into them and they're paying it. So it's a tax deductible contribution for
Slick.
this village improvement. Yes, it is a village improvement. So yeah, so that's been a lot of my work the last 2 weeks. All right. Some other just updates. The Community Center Programming Committee ran a survey. Hopefully you all completed it. If not, we're gonna allow, I haven't closed it yet. We are gonna process the responses only because the graduate student, Katie, that I'm working with, needs to finish her project, her report. So we're gonna crunch the data, but then maybe open it up and try to catch a few stragglers. The survey ran in the selectmen's email several times. I also put it on Facebook, or Explore put it on Facebook for me. And we have paper copies in the senior center. But there have been so many events lately. I think it's been there's been so much in the selectmen's email. So I was hoping for more of a response, but we had 215 so far online. And so I think that'll be enough data to take a look at, you know, what people are saying about their needs and the resources that they use in town. So meeting with Katie later this week. We're going to put together a summary report and I will share that with the EDC and get that posted. Welcome Center, still moving along slowly but surely. The painting is complete. I put here a picture of the bathroom hallway because it's the nice deep blue. And that is the hallway where some of the historic pictures from the railroad station and the railroad guys from the Chicago Railroad are going to go. So the blue bathroom hall is going to be the Chicago Railroad space. And I met last week or the week before with the brand new curator up at the Gun Museum. Her name is Amy and she's wonderful. She has a lot of energy. And the collections manager, Corinne, who's also fantastic and started like a month ago. So they're both really new, but very excited to work on this project. We were digging through getting some additional pictures of veterans to put in the front foyer to honor the veterans since it is Legion Hall. And Julia is going to come back for some final measurements to start putting into production the EDC wall where the map and the brochures and things will be. So that's where we are. And by the way, the signs both are in production and I have not heard a word. And I've been trying to get a hold of one of the sign guys. I can't seem, he's not returning my calls. So I'm hoping that he didn't go out of business in the middle of making our sign. So I need to follow up on that again. So any questions about the Welcome Center or the survey that was in the selectmen's email? No comments, questions. All right.
Michelle?
Yeah.
Michelle, can you hear me?
Yep.
Did they redo the floor? Because the floor looks good there. Did they pull up that carpet?
Right in the front, there was that rug on top of it. Did they take that up?
Well, that wood floor I don't think was there. I thought it was all that.
Oh no, the wood floor was there in just that little section. And they may have cleaned it because they were cleaning the grout and painting the bathroom walls as well. So they may have cleaned that floor. I don't remember.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's tiny, but it's gonna look really great once we get all the railroad stuff. I think we're gonna get less pictures than we originally thought. The water bottle filler it's just centered in a way that we didn't anticipate. And then the bathroom signs, I thought were going to go back on the door, but they went on the walls and I don't want to peel them off and wreck the paint. So there's still plenty of room for the display, but it's going to be a little bit, there are going to be a few less pictures than the original proposal, I think. Any other? All right, we'll move on to the newsletter. It is in process now, being proofread and in design. The goal is to be out on December 2nd. That's a Friday, assuming all goes well, Thanksgiving holiday in there makes it tight and a challenge, but we're really hoping to be in the mailboxes by the first weekend of December. And while we're talking about the newsletter, Jim, I can't see everybody who's still here. We just wanted to talk a little bit about the newsletter and just its sort of the mission and the goal, and it hasn't changed a lot. If you look to see what's been included in the newsletter, we run updates of events from our nonprofits and articles from our departments here in town hall about things that might be happening in our commissions. And that's pretty much the content. Jim, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. So it came to my attention last week, and shame on me after doing the research. This has been in there for years and may or may not be an issue. I want to put it out to the entire committee to see what everybody feels. It was brought to me that there's a submission each time we do the newsletter with more of a political stripe to it. And that comes from, our conversations on the green, which again, this has been it goes back before I took office. My concern is where does the EDC, in other words, when you take anything that has two sides, like politics or religion or whatever the case may be, are you then compelled to take everything? In other words, I don't think we have the bandwidth to go through and rewrite copy on these things. There was a couple of things that Michelle and I found that we had to take out because they were clearly political. So I would put it out there to the members to say, I'd like to hear your opinions on how you feel about things like that. And if we do that, do we have to edit every submission? In other words, if a counterpoint or a counter view. So I just want to put it out there and see how members feel about that.
Jim, can you give us an example without getting into the particulars?
Yeah, sure, Dan. So one example would be in one submission. Well, I don't know how I got to kind of get a little bit detailed, but it references President Trump's chief whipping boy. And that one got biased.
And that was going to find a home in our newsletter?
No, it got in. That's a previous one. That one got biased. But there's examples of that. If you go through the last 5 or 6 years or however often it's been, those kind of things, I think no matter what viewpoint it represents, should probably not be in there. Whether it's a conservative, a liberal, it doesn't matter to me what it is. Everybody's got the right to that, but then we have to entertain putting other things in there.
Okay. Well, as you know, I was somewhat involved in creating the newsletter, and we never even anticipated that there would be an emerging political point of view, including a comment similar to the one you just mentioned. So I would say that the intent here had been to be neutral and effectively reporting, not getting into opinion.
I would agree, Dan. And maybe the solution is, again, because all these groups, they give to Greenwoods, Susan B. Anthony, the proceeds go to good causes. Maybe the solution is to run with the graphic and not the text. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in because I was thinking about another example, because this is a nonprofit in our town that's hosting events, and it's the topic of these events may have points and counterpoints, but it's the verbiage around it. So for example, at the library, they host a lot of speakers. They just usually in the blurb have the speaker and the topic, and whether you find that topic controversial or not, I guess is a personal thing. We're just reporting that there will be this speaker. So I think to Dan's point, the idea of the newsletter is to report what's happening without taking a position on it. And so we just have to be careful. We have one organization that likes to submit text around the event. Does that help?
Yeah, can I say something about it? I
Sure,
mean,
Frank.
it's not conversations on the green anymore, it's common ground. And the idea is to try to present different viewpoints and discuss them in the context of the speakers. But I think if we were to ask them to write, I mean, what we're taking is pretty much verbatim what they send us, right? I mean, if we were, I think maybe a first attempt should be made to ask them to really do what you're saying about the library. Just, state the facts of the topic of the discussion, who the speakers are, without anything that is as descriptive as, I mean, I have a feeling that the whipping boy in relationship to Anthony Scaramucci, came from some copy in relationship to his book or something like that. But I think it might be worth a conversation with them directly as to what they're submitting, and not just to present what they send out more broadly.
Thank you, Fran. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to overthink this personally. I think we know something that's over the line when we see it. And we can reach out and say, guys, you're a local nonprofit. We want to support you. We want to get your word out for you, but perhaps you could be a little more discreet, or else we're just going to run the graphic and not your text. I mean, then the choice is yours. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to overthink this, but yeah, I think I agree with Jim. The whipping boy, that shouldn't have gotten by us. That's a little, that's out of bounds, I think. So
I think Fran is correct. It was like
oh, it's
know,
probably cut. Yeah, I'm
pulled-
sure it was just pulled and cut and pasted.
from there.
And as somebody who cuts and pastes for a living, I think there was an absence of malice here. I think somebody was just putting it together and sending it out before the deadline. And
Yeah.
They didn't really screen it carefully because, these things happen, but, I think Jim's also right. It's like, I don't think we should be becoming the town newsletter police, and it's like, we have lots of nonprofits doing things and events and whatever. And it's like, once you pull the thread on that sweater, where does it stop? We're gonna say, well, this church is doing this and this church is doing that. And it's like, oh, I could just, I think we should just let common sense kind of take reign here.
Yeah, Wayne, thanks. And I agree. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but again, one of my bigger concerns was if we don't sort of get this in check, and we do have all of a sudden a group or an individual or an organization says, well, you publish theirs, you need to, that kind of thing. I think we reserve the right to edit any content. And we reach out to the organizers and just say, let's promote your event, but let's keep it in broader terms.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
Good.
that sentence is perfect. We reserve the right to edit your content, to make it neutral. Something like that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good feedback. Okay, all right, moving on. So last week, I don't know, recently, the days were together. I attended the Northwest Hills Council of Governments EDC. And for those of you who are familiar with the COG, they're under new leadership. Everybody's changed up there. So they're just kind of getting their feet under them. So there's been sort of a lull in activity. But the EDC is getting up and running again. And one of the things that the EDC does is put together a comprehensive economic development strategy for the region. And it's a 5-year plan, and the 5 years is up next year. So we're starting to take a look at last year, the previous, what they call the SEDS, and to really look at how we did on some of those areas and whether we're missing things. And it was a quick meeting because there was a meeting after, and there had been a chamber meeting before, so we didn't really get a chance to dive in too much. We sort of introduced ourselves, see who all was sitting around the table, and just talked about some major themes. And one thing that was interesting is the major theme that came up that we feel is missing from the last sets is housing. A lot of, we're talking about attracting people to come live here so they can work and contribute to our area, but there's no housing for them. And so it really inhibits development, and it's a major problem for our employers. And we had people in the meeting from Torrington and other areas where they have manufacturing, and they can't find enough people to work. So but we have nowhere for them to live. So it's a challenge, and I will keep you abreast as we sort of move forward and talk about strategies for the next 5 years. I just copied the front page. I have the whole report, and actually if you ever want to read the whole report, it's on the COG's website. But there are 5 major areas of focus for fiber optic, tourism, arts and culture, farms, manufacturing, and innovation, which they made some progress, I think, in most of the areas. Manufacturing is a little bit, it's not a great fit for Washington. We don't have a lot. We lost our one small manufacturer when Berkshire Photonics left. I don't even know if that really counts, kinda. But anyway, some interesting ideas about thinking about the Northwest as a region and bringing people to the region, whether it's through tourism and arts and culture events, or in other ways, like supporting our farms. They created a food hub, which distributed produce from the local farms to restaurants and schools and things. So sort of creating this infrastructure within the community. And also fiber optic is something that the whole Northwest corner has been struggling with. And we've got Wayne and Rudy here. So at some point we'll talk a little bit about the broadband and the committee and kind of what we're thinking. But I just wanted to let you know that this is in the works. And Emily Hultquist is the new person up at the COG who will be overseeing the EDC. Does anyone have questions about that? Okay. So on that front, just wanted to let you know we are having an Arts Council meeting tonight. And Steph Burr, the Executive Director of the Northwest Arts Council, will be there. I had a wonderful conversation with her actually at the EDC meeting. Part of their goal is to help towns set up arts councils, which was wonderful. I also had a great long conversation with Kevin Bielmeyer when I was at the CCM conference, because it was the Southbury's subcommittee for the arts that brought this back to the table. So the goal for tonight is to formalize this council and to get people to volunteer to serve, to write their intent into, write to the selectmen and ask to be appointed to this council. It will serve, it will be a subcommittee of the EDC, and they will function, the goal is to function as any other commission or committee here in town with full disclosure, minutes, agendas. it was great. Steph had a lot of reasons why it's good for the council to operate that way, public money being one of them. So, you know, grants and other opportunities. So I'm excited and I'm hopeful that it will be a productive meeting. I have, I think, at least 10 people confirmed coming, and then others who are interested but couldn't make tonight. So I will keep you posted on that. Does anyone have questions about the Arts Council? No? Okay. Just an update. I did go to the CCM conference on November 1st. It was called Back to CT's Future, which is sort of an interesting title. But one of the things I participated in was a roundtable, an economic development roundtable, where we just sat around a table and had discussions for about an hour and a half. I think it was about an hour and a half. And interestingly enough, at the table were Kevin Bielmeyer, who's the Economic Development Director in Southbury, Jean Speck, who's the first select woman in Kent, Denise Rapp, first select woman in Litchfield, and then some other people from some larger towns, and then somebody facilitating from one of the economic development groups. And so the conversation was interesting, and we really sort of shared some of the challenges and how we deal with those challenges. Housing came up as the very first, you know, affordable housing came up as the very first thing that people are working on and are challenged with. And they talked about the issue of satisfying community versus satisfying abutting neighbors. So this whole idea of something that's good for the whole, but might feel as a burden to the neighbor who is adjacent. And that could be affordable housing, but that could be something else. That could be a community center. That could be economic development, you know, bringing in something, whether it's a new store, something that sort of is good for the community as a whole, but is challenging to those neighbors, and how projects can get caught up in the courts for years. And we've seen that here. I mean, the Wickham project is certainly one. They talked a lot about how economic development people in their towns, whether it's the economic development director or someone else, if they've got somebody coming to town, considering building, you know, whether it's an inn or a new store, and walking them through land use and having them speak with their neighbors before they even put the application in, to try to smooth those things out before you find yourself in some of the situations we found. Wayne's laughing. I know. In a perfect world, everyone would be happy, and that's not going to happen. But there are some strategies that we could maybe make the going a little less rough, was kind of the idea. And the other, one of the other themes that came out was just trying to figure out a way to articulate the downside of no economic development, right? You know, people, if there is no support of the businesses, and then the businesses that you have don't thrive, and that's not good for the town. So, you know, while you're trying to balance change with support, and just how to have that conversation and being sensitive to everyone around. So that is what we all chatted about for about an hour. And I found it very helpful to see that we are not the only town that struggles with some of these topics, and to hear from other towns how they've been kind of dealing with some of those. So.
Hey, Michelle,
Yeah.
that's really sounds interesting. And did they say anything about like having like welcome packages for new people looking in the area or coming into the area by any chance?
When I was speaking with Kevin, he did talk about sort of it for new business, not necessarily a new homeowners, but having sort of a walk around kind of thing, which I think would be a great idea. I did put something on the economic development page of the website. So it's something like opening a business in Washington, and has a few checkpoints, you know, the clerk and land use, you know, a few things, but we could probably beef that up. You could definitely,
Sort of business welcome wagon.
yeah, kind of,
Yeah.
well, you know what, the thing is, how do we make sure they find it is really, I think, you know, if somebody's, I guess, what I probably should do is talk with any kind of realtors or landlord, you know, the people who own our commercial buildings. And say, hey, if you've got somebody who's looking to open a business, make sure you send them to us. So we can kind of go through some of the zoning guidelines and.
Smooth the waters.
Yeah, just to make sure that they know what they're.
Kind of a roadmap.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, yeah, it is a good idea, and it was one of those things, I actually attended another workshop, it was all about land use, and they really talked about how to speak with those, like all the things you should do before you even go to zoning, and speaking with the neighbors and getting all your ducks in a row to just smooth that whole process. I took a lot of notes in that meeting as well. But yeah, I think maybe what I'll do after the meeting, I can share what I've got on the website, and we can see if there's maybe more that we could do. I can also, Fran, too, the WBA, when, you know, a business is coming to town, I know you guys usually go and introduce yourselves and ask businesses to join the WBA, but have you ever done any sort of like helping get set up kind of stuff?
No, but it's a good idea. And I think we also need to formalize the welcoming of new businesses as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there is no real formal, I've done a couple of ribbon cuttings, but only because people have reached out to me. Every now and then something just opens and I have no idea.
Right, I think that's what the common thing is, and we could certainly celebrate it more.
Absolutely, absolutely. Good.
Yeah, just on our road alone, we have we've got a public utility water company. And some people that have just moved into the area had no idea about sprinkler systems needing to be drawn from the lake. And, you know, things like that, just simple things to help them understand what the requirements for the area are, is often useful.
Yeah. That's something that we've talked about in planning and land use, other places, so when I send the welcome letters to new homeowners, I include the brochure that we put together with services here in town, and it's got the land use phone numbers, and it has a little blurb, you know, make sure you call before you add on a deck or build a garage or put up a fence, whatever, you know, things that you may or may not think of. So, so for homeowners, you know, I just watch the sales, but when a business comes to town, they often don't purchase, they often rent. So making sure we've got a good relationship with those landlords.
To just show up.
Yeah, they're just all of a sudden there. So yeah, figuring out how to get in touch with it. I feel like when Fleming's was opening, I felt like I was a stalker. I kept just stopping by, leaving cards in the door. I actually taped it to the light because I had no contact information. And I would see I saw painting was happening, but I never could see anybody. It took months for me to make that contact. So yeah, somehow trying to find a way to catch them before they are fully going. Pretty good idea. I think we should follow up with that. That's a good idea, Rudy. I'll make sure we kind of look at what we have for new businesses and what we can do. So we can kind of work on that for a future agenda item.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks. Did you have something else?
No, that was good. That's really good. Yeah, no, this sort of giving people a way to make it easier when they come into a new area always makes a difference.
I agree. All right, the other thing I just wanted to say that in sometime later, this 2 days, I'm gonna go to the COST conference, which is the Council of Small Towns. And I just listed out the agenda of what's gonna be, what they're speaking about. And then the closing speaker is gonna be David Lehman, who's our Commissioner of Economic and Community Development. But it's all the
He's
same.
leaving, by the way,
Oh, he's leaving?
in January.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. It's been good, I think. Anyway, so talking about public-private partnerships and supporting infrastructure seems useful. Obviously, land use updates, housing needs, and economic strategy. So the whole agenda is all the stuff that we've been talking about here locally and statewide. Obviously, they're talking about as well. So I'll report back that that looked like a good one. All right, I wanted to update you on the Instagram giveaway. So this was, Julia reported about this last month, and they were considering the idea and everyone thought it was a good idea. So now this happened, and so I'm just letting you know. They did the Gilmore Girls giveaway gift basket and promoted it on Instagram. They reached 4,795 people. Which is, it's just unbelievable.
It's bigger than the town.
I know, right? Yeah, bigger than the town. 200 likes, 171 comments. We got 94 new followers, which is amazing. 785 people, impressions on Facebook. So it was a fun thing to do. These, if you read up top, it says of the 4,795, 3,690 were not previous followers. So most of them were new. So these are people who follow Gilmore Girls but didn't know about Washington, and they now found Washington, Connecticut, and Explore Washington. So now we're on their radar. And if one of our business, so the way these things work is if, for example, Fran at the Hickory Stick, they do a lot of great posts. And if it's shared with Explore and these new people like the Explore site, they're now going to see this post from Fran about this great thing that she's doing. So it's just, feeding this network. And by doing a little giveaway, we grabbed a whole bunch of people. So that was pretty remarkable.
And the Gilmore Girl visitors, I mean, it obviously the first year and the year after were huge, but we have not seen so many people come through, and you can identify them as they come in. But it's wonderful. They're just as friendly as the original group was, and it's a tremendous asset for the town.
Yes, I agree. This was Gilmore Girls specific, the giveaway and this whole little write-up. Yes, and they've been here all fall. We keep talking about it. They're not going anywhere. And the guidebooks keep disappearing from town hall. So and I see them walking around too. You can tell. You can tell.
You can tell.
Yep, and they're taking pictures of everything around them.
Telltale cup of coffee in every hand.
Yes, exactly. So true. So
It
true.
is so true.
But it's great. It's great. It's wonderful. They're doing their thing. So it is good. All right, next to talk about the photo contest. So we decided at our last meeting that we would run this photo contest. This is a post on Instagram. I also ran the contest in the selectmen's email. And I just shared the flyer with ASAP. We're going to get it out to the schools as well. And to remind everyone, the idea is we're looking for photos of Washington throughout the seasons, because we need to always be a season ahead. So the photos that are being turned in for fall right now will probably get used next year in the summer when we're promoting the fall. So always kind of a season ahead. But Explore is always looking for photos to use in their posts and their newsletters. but they also need to have stuff in their pocket ready to go for when CT Visit or any of the other tourism boards put out a call saying, hey, we're looking for XYZ, you know, we'll send it to us and we will share. So we have 16 submissions so far, and it's open for, I forget the due date, a few more weeks. So that is great. We went ahead with it. The idea was to give prizes of gift certificates to businesses in Washington. We've had 1 or 2 businesses step forward, so I was hoping the WBA could help me with that in soliciting some gift certificates. We figured they don't have to necessarily be huge, you know, if a lot of businesses give several $25 ones, you know, that we could group a few together or have a first prize, second prize. And then what we're gonna do is at the end of the 4 different contests, we're gonna print up the winners of, or a handful, you know, maybe 10 from each season, and do an exhibit here at Town Hall like the ASAP Young Photographers did, just to celebrate the work of these people, were the students, amateurs, professionals, celebrating Washington. So it helps explore, to promote us to the wider world. So it is definitely in our economic development interest to do this, because making sure we have the right photos, it just enhances it all. So,
Michelle, how about making a calendar?
oh, I like that idea. Ooh. That's a wonderful idea, because the photos would be of the season, so it'd be really easy to make it appropriate, you know.
Mhm. I'd buy one.
Would too. And they'd make a great gift for people, you know, either who moved away or grew up here or whatever. I like that idea. Well, we will, you know, maybe we can even have the calendar ready to go. I don't know when the art show will be. We'll have to look at the timing, but once we pull the best submissions.
90% of all calendar sales happen at Christmas time.
Yeah, so the timing would have to be right on that.
Yeah, that's when people buy calendars.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Makes
By the way,
sense.
the calendar is a good idea. Could you have the local businesses also sponsor it somehow? In other words,
Sponsor. You mean
you know.
sponsor so that we're giving it away versus selling it?
well, I mean, just supporting it somehow, that where they get some kind of value through the calendar. I don't know, it's just a thought.
Oh, you mean just so their names are there?
Yeah, run it by Julie.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I could see how, yeah, like a highlight each month, you know, a different business was maybe highlighted, depending on whether there was a picture from them or not.
Yeah, like a lot of, there's calendars with like antique cars and all that, and you know, there's a lot of stuff that people kind of like to get notification of. So maybe that's somehow you could tie that in with the local businesses somehow. Just a thought, crazy thought.
Yeah.
On the passport, or whatever we're calling it, didn't they have where you could print on the back cover or whatever, a business? Where
Oh, yeah, that's
businesses-
right.
Where businesses could sponsor and then just have their ad on the back?
Yeah.
Yes, so we did that, and it was mostly the schools and the realtors that did that, because they hand them out to their clients and customers and parents and such. So I see what you're saying. So if we could make it available, for example, if a realtor or any business wanted to make them for their clients, customers, etc., they could sponsor it, put their information on it, and run the printing of that. Yeah, if it's a digital calendar, I don't see why we couldn't have those options. The EDC could print some to sell, and businesses could print them for themselves to give away if they wanted.
Yeah.
You might also consider, though, using it as a fundraiser for the Washington Community Fund, or for some particular thing
Yeah.
in town.
Town improvement, what's that committee called? The
Village
Village.
improvement.
village improvement, yeah.
Society. Well, I wasn't thinking, well, I mean, I don't know what the possibilities would be, and I would say that a scenic calendar of the Washington area, I think would be very appealing as someone who sells lots of calendars.
Right, yeah, calendars are moneymakers, so.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought they were. I figure, because how much can you say? I don't know. I was like, it costs $10 to print. You sell it for 15. But I don't know. I
But
don't know.
they move because they're great gifts. They're stocking stuffers. you know.
Yeah. Well, Fran, because you've got such a good background in this, we'll talk to Julia and, we'll wait until the photos come in, but as we're looking at, once we've got 4 seasons of photos to work with, I think the calendar is a great idea, because you only need 3 per season. Or we could, we can make the calendar of all the winning photos if that seems
I mean,
appropriate.
I think you would be looking at this as a 2024 calendar to be
Yeah.
available next fall.
Correct.
23, right?
24.
No.
No, 24, because we aren't gonna have pictures of the winter or the summer until the winter and summer come. Right? We're just starting at this.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, I always keep so many photos, old photos on that's why I was thinking. I have old photos that could be used.
Yeah, I'm sure if we really wanted, we could probably comb through the Explore site and find photos. We'd probably have to get permission, special permission for this photo contest. The part of the fine print is that once you submit it to us, we now have the right to use it. With the acknowledgement, we're gonna acknowledge the
Sure.
the
Right.
photographer, but then we are gonna have rights to use it, so.
Hey,
that's a good
Michelle,
idea. Yeah,
could you do something with the museum or the library and like have some scattered about this day in Washington history throughout it as well?
I don't know whether they're doing it this year or not, but the Gun Historical Society does a calendar every year
Oh,
that they
That's
sell
true,
and
they
we
do.
sell for them.
that's true.
yeah, I think, I donate, so I usually got a calendar. I think it was like a gift for people who donate to was it the Historical Society or the museum, or in conjunction?
Well, I'm
But-
sorry, it is the museum.
But again, since we just hired somebody new, that may or may not happen this year, but I like that idea. It is always kind of fun. To have, some sort of factoid somewhere around, or a picture of, we'd have the photo of that was submitted, but then a picture of what it looked like 150 years ago, if we happen to have that. That's always kind of fun too. So that's a great idea. We'll see what the museum, whether they get one together for this year.
Oh, yeah, by the way, you just reminded me of the fact that there's a lot of postcards of the area, like, that I have a whole bunch of postcards of Lake Warramug and everything. And that history you just brought up is really a good point. There's a lot of history here too, which is kind of something that maybe sometimes people forget, but it also says a lot about the area. Maybe you could combine that sort of work, the current day photos with some of the histories. Just another crazy thought, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's what we were talking about. People love that and enjoy that. And, the collection, if you've got a collection of them, Rudy, you should make sure you pop by with the museum with them and just make sure that they've got record of those as well. I know they have a collection of them,
Mhm.
but if you happen to have one that they don't, I'm sure they'd love to either preserve it for you or at least have a picture and have it on file. So,
Take a high
Yeah,
risk.
that's a good point.
yeah,
Really good
yeah,
point, yeah.
yeah, they could scan those and
I
because
got a
they have
whole
some
wall full of them.
They have them on display at the museum. You should, have
Yeah.
you been to the museum?
Yeah, I saw them. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And I think they did do I think last year's this year's calendar with cars, but I think the calendar before was some of those old postcards. What was frustrating is they aren't always dated. So it doesn't always say when the postcard, when those pictures were taken. But
Yeah,
yeah,
some of the cards I have or people have written on them, Uncle Lou is coming up, and that kind of stuff,
that's fun. That's
Yeah, it
great.
is.
Yeah, people love those. That is great. All right, well, good ideas, you guys. I will keep you posted on the contest. And hopefully with a little cooperation with the WBA, we can get some gift certificates together. And or if anybody here is maybe willing to help solicit those, we could write up a little letter blurb explaining what it's for and why it's good for the whole district, the businesses as a whole, because.
So I'll take it to the WBA and we'll pursue it.
Great, thank you, Fran. Wonderful. All right, last little bit, I just wanted to share, the Western CT Tourism District has a meeting tomorrow. I'll be going to that. I think, Fran, are you gonna go as well?
It's at 3 o'clock. No, because there's a WBA social.
Yeah, I
tomorrow.
was gonna try to go to this and then get back in time for the social.
I mean, I will go to it, but I'll go to it via Zoom, not in
Okay.
person.
Yeah, so Fran's been a member. I just noticed one of the new vice presidents or something is from Roxbury. So there's some local people, but the Western, I talked to Kevin Bielmeyer about this a bit, about how strangely they divided up the state into their different tourism districts, and they don't match the COGS and they don't match anything. And so, it goes all the way, beyond Naugatuck Valley. So Western Connecticut is it's a large district. And it was interesting because I'm new to this. I'm just kind of figuring out what all they do and how we sort of plug into that. But I put up the Instagram. I just copied this today. I just wanted to show you that they have 2,213 followers, while Washington has 3,754. So our little town has quite a few more followers than our Western CT Tourism Board. And they have a pretty significant budget. If I'm reading this correctly, they have a budget of $400,000. So I just thought it's a nice little celebration of what we've been able to do here in little bitty Washington. With obviously because of the expertise of Explore and Julia and Zoltan and what their brilliance in this area. But it was kind of funny because when I went to a Western CT tourism meeting several months ago, and it was my first one. And so I took all these notes about things we should do and things we could tie into it. And I was sharing with Julia. I was like, hey, by the way, whenever we should make sure we follow them and that we post to them so they can pick up our things. And Julia wrote back, she was like, Michelle, you do realize that we're bigger than they are. I know, but they should get some momentum. I mean, CT Visit has done such a fabulous job, the state, of promoting Connecticut in Massachusetts and New York, and their campaigns have been hugely successful. So Western CT, I'm still learning how that ties in, and hopefully they'll get their feet under them and get a little momentum as well. But just a little report and a little comparison on that. That is all I have for what I've been up to for the last month and the updates on where we are on our projects. Does anyone have any questions about those? Any of those? All right, I asked Wayne to just share a little bit about broadband, and then we'll hear from the WBA and the selectmen before we close out.
Oh, okay, I just
And
have
I'll
a,
stop sharing here.
I just have an FYI update as to some goings on actually in another town, not near us, actually in Sharon, Connecticut. Last, I guess it was last spring, my timeframe's a little sketchy, but a while back, Sharon formed a broadband committee. They actually gave themselves a name and got a website going and everything called Sharon Connect. And they've been very active in trying to solve their broadband problems. They're in a much different position than we are in Washington. They actually have areas of their town that have nothing. They have, they have several hundred homes in their community that don't even have cable. And so it's at the point where the poor cell service and poor internet service in their town was actually starting to threaten property values. And that was, of course, of some concern. So they did what we're hopefully going to be doing in the near future, is they commissioned a feasibility study to find out what would be involved and how much it would cost to build out a comprehensive fiber to the home broadband network for their town, and basically just leapfrog everyone and just get to the state of the art without having to do it incrementally. They left a lot of options open, but at the end, they looked at an option that was basically what I call the build a utility model, where they just basically said they're just going to do the whole smash. And it was very comprehensive and very, very expensive. I mean, when I mean expensive, like over $12 million. I thought at the time it was probably a hard sell, to say the least. But I had spoken with the folks there a few times when I was still chair of Northwest Connect, and was following their progress. Fast forward to this past summer or spring, and Comcast, who is their cable provider, they don't have Spectrum, they have Comcast, stepped up and said, well, we'd be willing if you gave us money to string cable on the remaining streets in your town. They had some sort of thing where they could maybe get some state funding. It was kind of amorphous. It was what we tend to call them in my days at Northwest Connect, the bribe a provider model, where they basically, you just pay a provider to do what they should have done anyway. And they came up with a figure of $1.6 million to basically string cable on the streets that didn't have it. So they decided to actually put it up to a town vote. So they called a town meeting. At the 11th hour, Frontier stepped in and said, oh, by the way, we were thinking of stringing fiber in Sharon, and for 3.2 million, we would string fiber throughout the entire town. So, and we'd connect the homes and whatever. And so that kind of muddied the waters, which is what these providers tend to try to do. At the end of the day, the town voted to do the cheapest option, which is they're going to give Comcast $1.6 million of local public money to string cable on the roads in their town that currently don't have cable, so that at least everyone in their town has access to something. We don't have that problem here because Spectrum pretty much provides universal access in Washington. But I can say, as someone who's been studying this issue for a long time, there is no way that I would ever support spending public dollars on copper. I consider that a wasted. I consider that wasted money. I mean, the best analogy I could give would be, imagine it's not 2022 and it's 1922, and somebody comes to the town and says we should give Western Union money to string more telegraph wires while Ma Bell is stringing telephone service everywhere. It's just, you'd be laughed out of the room. But that's essentially what happened. As we move forward, looking at our options in Washington, let me just assure you that's not going to be one that I would support, nor would I be supportive of the option that they came up with, which was to do the whole smash at like $12+ million and basically build out the the Sharon Broadband Company or whatever. I would never, you know, I think that's a bridge too far myself. I think there are other ways that we can work on this they could give us what we need and not break the bank and not sell our souls. That's it.
Thanks, Wayne. I'm intrigued by the fact that Frontier put in a bid to do the entire town, and I'm curious, I want to watch to see what they do. They know that there's federal and state money out there, and so that might move the needle on this, because we've been stuck where we are for a while.
Yeah, there's federal money available, but I really doubt that a significant portion of that is gonna come our way. Most of that broadband money is gonna go to the cities in Connecticut. The federal broadband money it's sent to the states by the federal government and the states administer it. So, Connecticut is gonna get about $100 million from the Infrastructure Act for broadband. It already has another like 43 million left over from ARPA. You know, it's, although we are in dire straits in the northwest corner in terms of lousy wireless and internet service, we are actually not the only parts of the state that are without it. In fact, the poor urban neighborhoods are without really good internet as well. And that's because of economic reasons. And I think the state's gonna send the lion's share of that broadband money into the urban areas, because that's where the providers want to string fiber anyway. I mean, if you're Frontier or Comcast or whomever, you know, and if you're stringing fiber on somebody else's dime, you're gonna string it where there's hundreds of potential customers per mile before you string it where there are tens of potential customers. And the incumbent providers are gonna align with the urban leaders, and they're gonna, if you know anything about how things work at the state capitol, you know that's where the money's gonna end up. I've testified to the Energy and Technology Committee on several occasions now. And let me just say that the talent pool there doesn't inspire confidence. And I'll just leave it at that. So that's the update.
All right, thank you, Wayne. Does anyone have questions about that? We will report back once the committee meets. Fran, you want to share anything about the WBA?
Well, I mean, obviously the lights are very exciting for everyone, and the fact that there are going to be lights in the depot and in New Preston as well is huge this year. And I think that will make a big difference. Holiday in the Depot will be coming up, which is obviously a joint venture with the WBA and the town. And hopefully this will be the most normal year that we've seen in quite a while, and that the weather will be good to us. There are some things that we're working on, but we'll report, either Lisa or I will report on them at the December meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Jim? You still with us? Do you have anything for the selectmen report? You maybe had to step out. Just so everyone knows, Holiday in the Depot is December 9th, second Friday. Exciting. I forget where I was. Somewhere recently, and somebody said it's their favorite day of the year. It's their favorite thing the town does, is Holiday in the Depot. So I thought that was really nice and special. It is a wonderful event, and I hope for good weather, right? It just makes a huge difference. I'm trying to think of anything else in the selectmen. There's some new stuff happening up at the transfer station that's coming online soon. Jay, the EV chargers are still in the works. He's got to have another meeting with the technicians or something. Trying to think of what else they're working on.
Michelle, did they ever get a head count from the Fall Festival?
No. No, everyone is just in agreement that it was more. Everyone feels that 3,000 plus or minus is sort of how they're feeling. And it is something, I was speaking with Liz, they did sort of a debrief after, and they're gonna try to work on getting having a better system, getting some kind of head count. Yeah. It's just bigger, that's all we know. All right, does anyone have any other comments or questions or things that they think we should speak about on our upcoming agendas? I will say that usually sometime in the winter, we take a look at our goals for the year and see how we're doing against those goals. Because then we'll have to start thinking about our goals for the next year. And POCD too, we talked about that when the planning commission came to us, but the revisions are going to be right around the corner. So keeping that in mind, we should touch base with that again at some point. So maybe that'll be some of our winter work. All right. Anyone else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Wayne, Kristen, all right. Thank you all for being here, and I'll see you next month, if not before.
Thanks
Thanks,
a lot,
Michelle.
Michelle.
Have
Bye.
a great evening.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank
Happy
you. You
Thanksgiving.
too, Fran.